Welcome to Changing Voices in Higher Education, the podcast that explores the evolving ideas, practices, and leadership shaping teaching, learning, and community impact across post secondary institutions. I'm your host, Shamima Raihan Manzoor, a higher education researcher and educator passionate about how colleges and universities create meaningful learning opportunities that support both individual success and community well being. As the global economy evolves, community colleges are playing a growing role in regional development, workforce resilience, and community prosperity, particularly in rural areas where they act as key social and economic anchors. Research from High Education Strategy Associates notes that in Atlantic Canada, government spending represented 37.5% of regional GDP in 2018, highlighting the importance of public institutions, including colleges, in sustaining local economies while supporting industries such as fisheries, agriculture, and manufacturing. At the same time, the labor market is rapidly changing. The half life of professional skills is now about 4 years. 40% of core competencies may change by 2030, and entry level job postings fell 45 below the 5 year average in early 2025. In this context, as Mohammed Siddiqui highlights in Community College Daily, community colleges are uniquely positioned to quickly adapt programs and integrate work based learning that aligns education with evolving workforce needs. In today's episode titled Community Colleges as Engines of Regional Prosperity, we explore how colleges collaborate with communities, industries, and governments to address local challenges, strengthen workforce development, and create sustainable economic opportunities. We will discuss how institutions can remain agile in the face of technological change while continuing to serve as catalysts for inclusive growth and social prosperity. That brings us to today's guest. Dr. Sandra Efu is the president and CEO of Canadore College, where she champions student success, academic excellence, and community impact. A respected leader in Canadian higher education, Dr. Sandra previously held several senior leadership roles at Canadore College, including interim president and CEO and vice president academic and student experience. Throughout her career, Dr. Sandra has been deeply committed to strengthening the connection between colleges and the communities they serve. Her work spans academic leadership, international education, and student services, all aimed at creating inclusive and student centered learning environments. She has also led initiatives supporting global engagement and newcomer integration, including the development of international education strategies and programs that expand opportunities for students and communities alike. Dr. Sandra's leadership and contributions have been widely recognized. She was a recipient of the 2024 Alberta Immigrant Impact Award and was named among the 100 accomplished Black Canadian women in 2026. Dr. Sandra, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Welcome to Changing Voices in Higher Education.
Thank you, Shamima. Thank you for having me.
To begin, what does regional prosperity personally meaning to you in the context of a community college?
Thank you. Again, a really good question. So, regional prosperity really means that every resident, regardless of where they are located, have an opportunity to learn, grow, and contribute to the economy. And again, when you think about accessible, affordable education, that really translates into real local opportunity. That is where regional prosperity comes into play. It includes building a resilient local economy by growing talent and just supporting overall entrepreneurship and strengthening of the social fabric. I truly do believe that education is a catalyst for sustainable community well being. And I'll maybe talk about it within the context of Canadore, located in North Bay. So for Canadore, when you think of regional prosperity, it's about inclusive pathways, not only for Indigenous learners, because we do work and play on Indigenous land, but also for newcomers and non-traditional students, again, just so that they can participate meaningfully in local work and life.
And that is very important what you have mentioned, that is inclusivity, which is very important for prosperity. In practical terms, how does Canadore College partner with communities such as North Bay and Parry Sound to address local workforce and social needs?
Yeah, another really good question. So for me, the first thing that comes to mind is the co-designing of programs and curriculum with local employers and industry. It's important that programs that we offer, curriculum that we teach, do reflect real job requirements and emerging opportunities as well. Having employers and key community members form part of our program advisory groups. I think it's also crucial. You also think about work integrated learning and making sure that as an institution, we're partnering with businesses in North Bay and Paris Sound to provide students with co-ops, internships, apprenticeships, practicum, experiences that are really hands-on and that help prepare learners for the workforce. And another way that we do that is through innovation centers such as ICAMP. And so for listeners, ICAMP here at Canadore stands for the Innovation Center for Advanced Manufacturing and prototyping. And iCamp really is a non-for-profit innovation center, as I mentioned, operated by Canadore here in North Bay. And the mission really is to promote the growth and success of Canadian industry by providing direct, cost-effective access to the latest in advanced manufacturing technology and expertise. And so through centers like this, through partnerships like this, Canada continues to ensure that, again, it's being a regional steward.
Oh, so it's really wonderful to know about iCamp at Canadore College. And what brings this idea?
Of course. So when you think of some of the key economic drivers in the north, mining, manufacturing is absolutely crucial. And businesses oftentimes will have an idea that they want to explore and they need help in not only mapping out that idea, but with prototyping. And so ICAMP offers that space, offers that opportunity to businesses. And essentially, industry can come to us with their industry question or problem, and the team is able to support them through that process all the way to prototyping. And so I'm just so proud of the team because we've worked with over 600 businesses and have supported over 1,500 initiatives. And so it is through meaningful partnerships such as this that we're able to not only educate, but support businesses within our region, within our community, so that they can also be successful.
It's a huge achievement, I would say, that through iCamp, how you are bridging the gap between the educators and the industry, as you are saying, Canadore is doing. Wonderful. Drawing from your experience at both Keanu College and Canadore College, could you share an example where a college directly helped solve a real community challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I'll start by touching on some of those sectors that we know are experiencing shortage, and that shortage is expected to continue to grow and are further amplified in rural, remote communities. So you think of healthcare, for example. We know that in the coming years, there will be shortages in the hundreds and thousands. And if you think of rural, remote communities, those numbers are going to be, again, further amplified. And so when you think of an institution like, say, Kiana or Canadore, there is an opportunity to step in and help address those gaps by offering not only programming within the healthcare space, but also offering incentives to attract and retain talent within the communities that we serve. Another piece I think that is crucial it would be supporting Indigenous economic development. And for us as an institution, certainly in the case of Canadore, by pairing culturally informed education with local employment opportunities and entrepreneurship support, we're able to help support Indigenous communities, responding to regional downturns by, offering retooling programs for whether reskilling or upskilling. And the last bit maybe that I'll touch on is also implementing community-based project and applied research. And in the case of Canada, a really good example that comes to mind is the Village Community Impact Project. And it's really a social impact project that brings about the aging population into campus, providing that safe space for interaction, for community, but also giving our students, our learners, access to work and support the population as a part of their program. And so you start to see that community-based projects such as the village have such positive impact to the overall community well-being.
How can colleges move beyond being education providers to becoming true co-creators of opportunity with employers, indigenous partners, and community organizations?
Well, I think one way could be establishing joint governance and advisory bodies. And these bodies can include employers, but also Indigenous learners, leaders, community organizations with real decision-making power. I also think of, creating either living labs or community-based projects. And sometimes you can tie programming and student academics to some of these initiatives so that students get to work on real community challenges in collaboration with partners. I think investing in shared facilities, equipment, incubator spaces, the iCamp example is a great example where this is happening. I think also aligning, strategic planning with regional economic plans and ensuring that whatever programs and wraparound supports that we offer as an institution, that it's also in tangent addressing local priorities.
How do you ensure programs remain aligned with local industry demands while still preparing students for long-term adaptability? I know you have mentioned about this working with the community, but you do like to add more onto this one.
Yeah, I don't think you can overemphasize the importance of maintaining active, regular engagement with industry groups. Again, program advisory committees, groups are a really good way of ensuring that programs stay aligned with local industry demands. I think offering micro credentials that are modular, stackable, and of course those can be without having to overhaul entire programs. Emphasizing transferable skills. I think we recognize that the economy as we know it is changing and is changing rapidly due to some of the geopolitical situation at play right now. But it's also an opportunity, I believe, for community colleges to emphasize again transferable skills through their programming, whether it's digital literacy, critical thinking, collaboration, adaptability. Again, these are skills that endure beyond specific job roles. um, Investing in flexible delivery models. Again, we recognize that today's learners are very different. They have busy lives. Mature learners have families. And so offering flexible delivery models that allow them to continue to gain access to education, employing data-informed decision making. I think it's absolutely crucial as well in guiding program changes and new offerings.
So, what kind of flexible learning modules are you offering at Canadore for the learners?
I think COVID taught us a thing or two, right? I think with COVID, we had the opportunity to try hybrid options, online options, evening classes, weekend classes. I think continuing to stress and offer learners those flexible delivery models are absolutely crucial and something that Canada does currently. It's not unusual to have evening classes or have classes that are in a hybrid format. Again, we recognize that today's learners are very different, and so we want to make sure that we're offering programming in modalities that support non-traditional students.
That's wonderful. What role do applied learning, work integrated learning, and employer partnerships play in helping students transition successfully into meaningful careers?
Well, put simply, they provide real world contexts, not only for applying knowledge, but accelerating some of the skill mastery and building professional networks before graduation. When learners have the opportunity to gain that hands-on experience, they're more likely to be successful when they do transition into the workplace following graduation. I think those partnerships also enable sponsored projects between industry and the institution, co-op placements, internships, apprenticeships, and they often lead directly to job offers for students. I think applied learning also bridges the gap between theory and practice, right? And just increasing overall confidence for learners, employability, and readiness for complex workplace environments, today. I think it also reinforces civic engagement, something that I'm very passionate about. I think as citizens, we have a responsibility to the communities and the regions where we live, work, and study. But I think, reinforcing that civic engagement by aligning student projects with community needs and social impact is absolutely crucial.
I also think that through this hands-on experience is easy for the learners to create the portfolio which will help them to showcase for their employers when they're going for the job market. So that is the
Absolutely.
fantastic way to actually facilitate the learning. Many institutions struggle to connect training with actual job outcomes. What strategies have you found most effective in bridging the gap between education and employment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, one way is building a transparent chain from that program design stage to employment outcomes with clear job maps, potential career trajectories. And again, I want to stress this cannot be done in isolation. Institutions they no longer have a choice. They have to do this in strong collaboration and partnership with businesses. I think using employer driven capstones, project based assessments that mirror real work tasks and also help address real issues within the community. I think, requiring early and sustained work integrated learning placements with dedicated staff to support both student and partner organizations because we know these placements, they can be a lot, and there's a lot that goes into managing and assessing students as they go through placement. So really dedicating the resources. And then, of course, I'd say, tracking, publishing, and acting on graduate outcomes to inform that continuous improvement. Those would sort of be, the strategies that I would offer that tend to be the most effective in bridging that gap.
So, Dr. Sandra, when it comes to partnership, what do you think are the important factors choosing the partners?
I think you need partners who have aligned values. I think you need to make sure that you're bringing on partners that understand the role that colleges play within the community, who understand that students, through gaining hands on experience, are better for it and that are willing to to truly provide that dedicated, whether it's staff or resource to support learners through that. So I think alignment is important, as I mentioned, not only in terms of values, but in believing of what the ultimate role is of colleges and that passion for supporting students, learners in gaining real world experience. Ultimately, if we work together, if we partner together to train well-rounded students, the businesses benefit. They benefit because they get to hire skilled, experienced labor force.
It's like a win-win situation.
Absolutely.
So you have led areas such as student services, accessibility, wellness, and international education. How does investing in holistic student support contribute to regional economic success?
Well, certainly holistic supports reduce barriers to access. Again, something that that cannot be overemphasized. It reduces barriers to access and persistence, but increasing graduation rates and again the size of the local talent pool. Wellness, accessibility, mental health services help sustain that student engagement. We want to make sure that when students are going through their academic journey, they're not just, going through the learning and the sitting through classes. We want to make sure that they are thriving as they experience and go through their academic journey. I think in international education and welcoming services broaden cultural capital, they attract diverse talent and create global networks that benefit local employers and also students, right? Like being in a classroom that is very diverse, you get to learn from your colleagues from around the world. And that can be very, very enriching. Strong student services help learners transition smoothly into the workforce. It helps with entrepreneurship. It could help spark the need or interest in pursuing further studies. Again, all while driving regional economic growth.
Totally agreed. What does an inclusive student-centered college ecosystem look like to you, particularly for newcomers, first-generation learners, and underserved communities?
I think for me, right away, it would be clear, barrier free pathways into both credit and non credit program with targeted outreach and supports, particularly for first generation learners and newcomers. It's so important that these wraparound supports are offered even before students start their program, right? When you think of that student life cycle, it does start before the student walks through the halls of the college. I think having culturally safe onboarding and ongoing supports that respect diverse backgrounds is absolutely important. UDL, right? Like Universal Design for Learning in classrooms and online spaces to accommodate different learning styles and accessibility needs. Another piece would be integrated wraparound services, including that academic advising piece, language support, childcare. Again, the learners that we see today are a little different. They're non-traditional. In a lot of cases, they're mature learners with families. It could also be transportation assistance, mental health supports. I think the last piece that maybe I'll touch on is the campus culture and spaces and ensuring that those are welcoming and safe and responsive to the needs of underserved groups in particular. Again, I want to stress, you have Indigenous learners, you have newcomers. We want to make sure that our spaces are welcoming and that every learner can see themselves represented within the institution.
And when you talk about the diverse learners, they should feel comfortable when they come for the learning. If they find the environment is inclusive and welcoming, it's motivating for them to engage in the learning process.
Absolutely.
Earlier in your career, you worked on social prosperity and recovery initiatives. How has that experience shaped how you led colleges today?
Well, I can tell you that global perspectives help broaden ways of thinking, problem solving, and collaboration. And we know that these skills are highly valued and are valuable to businesses and to employers. International partnerships really do expand opportunities for collaboration, not just for faculty, but I think also for students. When you think of joint programming and attracting talent to a region and a community, I think those are crucial. And certainly for me, I think I've certainly seen how that has helped strengthen local prosperity. Exposure to diverse cultures certainly enhances cultural competence and awareness. And we know that these are critical for serving diverse communities and expanding local markets. Maybe the last piece that I'll touch on in sort of my own observations is that, international education enriches the local ecosystem. It elevates an institution's reputation because now you're able to support and tackle big economic education questions locally at home, but also abroad. It could then lead to attracting investment and driving innovation. So again, I've seen it serve as a win-win situation for not only institutions, but also for the partner organizations or partner communities abroad.
Absolutely. Through your work with Efu's Consulting, you have emphasized evidence-based decision making. How important are data and research in guiding institutional strategy and community impact?
Well, I'm certainly a data person. I believe in data informed decisions. Data and research are absolutely essential and crucial to understanding needs, to understanding issues, problems. It also helps measure progress and ensuring that resources are allocated effectively. Evidence informs program design because ultimately you want to make sure that you're not just throwing darts at a wall, right? It has to be labor market aligned, and it helps with prioritization as well of investment in people and partnerships. Ultimately, we all have limited resources and we want to make sure that we're maximizing those resources. Transparent data sharing with partners also build trust. It builds trust and accountability for outcomes that matter. Ongoing evaluation is also really important. It reveals what works, what doesn't work, and where to innovate responsibly. It's not just about chasing number, right? Like I always say that data-driven strategy is not just about chasing numbers. It's about translating insights into meaningful, measurable community impact.
So when you're talking about data, definitely we have a lot of data around us, and sometimes it's like data overload. So in terms of community impact, would you like to specify certain indicators that educators should look into?
It depends, right? It depends on the question at hand. It depends on the sector. I think what's important is that you clarify the question that you're trying to solve or that you're addressing, the issue that you're trying to address. By clarifying and ensuring a common understanding, it does help individuals, organizations ensure that they are sourcing for and looking for the right data. With that data, they're able to truly translate it into, again, meaningful, measurable impacts. But first, clarify what the question is or the issue that you're trying to address, and then build your data infrastructure to help support that work.
As a college president, how do you balance innovation and risk-taking with accountability and long-term sustainability?
Yeah, another good question. I always say responsible risk taking. I think one way is having pilots or phased implementation to test new ideas. That way you're really controlling and limiting the risk before you scale up. So that's certainly one way. I think another piece is building strong governance, clear metrics, risk registers to monitor potential impacts and costs. And to be successful in this, I stress this point, engage diverse perspectives. You want diverse thoughts, diverse experiences around the table in decision making to ensure relevance and legitimacy. Aligning that innovation with one's mission. So for Canadore, ensuring that any innovation is aligned with Canadore's mission, values, and ultimately long-term financial and environmental sustainability. And then institutionalizing and driving and emphasizing the need for accountability through regular reviews, public reporting, and continuous improvement cycles.
That's wonderful. Finally, if you could share one message with higher education leaders across Canada about the future of community colleges and regional development, what would it be?
I think maybe the first thing that comes to mind would be to invest in people first. People need to be at the center of decision making. We need to prioritize inclusive access, holistic supports needs to be present, and strong partnerships that unlock local opportunity. The other piece that I would offer is to champion co creation with employers, Indigenous communities, and community organizations to ensure that programs address real needs. We cannot operate in silos. So co create, co create, co create. Embracing agility as well. We need to make sure that we're agile in the programming we offer and how we're delivering it. The world is changing rapidly, and institutions need to adapt equally. And I would say embed data and evaluation and transparency into your strategy so that, again, whatever progress that is being made is measurable and is also trustworthy. Maybe the last thing, again, just one more that came to mind is maybe you think regionally, you think nationally, internationally, but act locally. Communities succeed when colleges anchor growth and innovation and ultimately social prosperity in those communities where they exist and that they serve. Hence, again, that regional stewardship piece.
Wonderful, Dr. Sandra. Thank you so much for such an insightful and inspiring conversation. Your reflections remind us that community colleges are far more than places of learning. They are anchors of opportunity, strengthening communities, supporting local industries, and preparing people with the skills and adaptability needed to thrive in a rapidly changing world. Your leadership highlights how colleges can collaborate with communities, employers, and partners to build pathways that advance both regional prosperity and social well being.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure and an honor to speak with you today. Thank you.
To our listeners, thank you for joining us for this episode of Changing Voices in Higher Education. Be sure to subscribe for more conversations on innovation, leadership, and the future of learning around the world. Until next time, I'm Shamima. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep learning because the future of education is now.